I'm starting with 2 pieces of 16 gauge round soft copper wire. They're both cut to 12 inches long. I've measured 3.5 inches from the wire ends and I've made a little mark. I'm going to use my ring mandrel for this project. It's a really great tool to have, not only for making rings but also for making earrings where you have to make really nice nested loops like we're doing on this pair. I got this very lightweight aluminum ring mandrel from the local hobby store and it was less than $15. To make my first earring, I'm going to make sure that the short side of my wire, so from the mark to the left, is facing my left. I'm going to get my ring mandrel and I'm going to start on the number 13. I'll just put my mark there, put my thumb and hold real steady. You're going to come around the ring mandrel with the long side of the wire, and the long side of the wire is going to go above the short side. So we'll just make a loop. Whoop. I'm putting my long wire above the short wire, and I'm fighting my camera being above me a little bit, but I think you can get the idea here. And I'll just make a complete 360 around the ring mandrel right there at the number 13 until both my wires are horizontal again. And now I'm just going to swing this around so that I can see where they intersect. I'll put my thumb right there and make sure that both wires are indeed horizontal. It's not a big deal, it doesn't have to be super perfect. From here, I keep my finger on it and I slide clear up the mandrel, letting this side come away from the mandrel, but the side with my thumb stays on the mandrel and keeps the wire pressed against the mandrel. So up here at size 5, I'll make sure my wire is nice and straight, and without pulling on it, I'm just going to use the mandrel to bend the next ring around the size 5. You might have to move your thumb a little bit and get it all the way around there. So we have a ring nested inside a ring. From here, I'm going to continue to slide straight up my mandrel to the number 1, and I'll repeat this process without pulling. I've got a lot of pressure on my thumb to keep it in place, and I'm just using the long side of the wire, and I'm going to bend all the way around the mandrel way up here where it's the most narrow. Get your wires back to horizontal so that these rings are complete, and then you can slide off the mandrel, and this is the result that we have. From here, you can make small adjustments if you need to, just with your fingernails, if you need to scooch a ring lower or over to the side like I just did. And that's beautiful. The long side is coming out to the left, the short side is coming out from the bottom to the right. To make the second earring so that it is the mirror opposite of this one, all we have to do is point the short side of the wire to the right. And we'll still make the same maneuvers with the long side of the wire looping over the short side. So I'll put my mark on number 13 and I'll hold it, get my fingers out of the way. I'll turn this wire completely around the mandrel with the long wire on top. And I'll get the wires so that they're going horizontal again, just like that. And now I'll spin this entire thing around so that I can see where they intersect right here. Just make some small adjustments. Then we'll slide up here to the very same numbers. So we'll go up here to the number 5. This also ensures, if you can get a little ring mandrel like this, it ensures that your loops come out consistent each time for both earrings. So I'll take my long side, and without pushing or pulling, just using the mandrel to make my loop, I'm going to go all the way around the mandrel and come back to horizontal. Then I'll slide all the way up here to the number 1. Keep my thumb firmly pressed and without pushing or pulling. Just going to use the mandrel and shape my wire and bring the wire back to horizontal. And you might have to, I'm a little bit awkward underneath the camera, but it'll be easier for you. You might have to adjust it a little bit, so we've made kind of like a little corkscrew. And now with our fingers, we can just make small adjustments if we need to make these loops nest a little bit cleaner, and that's beautiful. I'll compare it to my first earring, and I think that that's quite consistent. Both of the short ends of my wire are coming opposite each other, and the long wire is the wire facing me on top. Now to get these twisted together, you're going to want to hold all of these rings in place as firmly as possible. So I start by slanting, I hold everything and I slant the upper wire slightly up, hold everything and slant the back wire slightly up, not allowing it to go out of shape. Going to look and just make sure we're still nice and crossed at the center. It's big wire if you're using 16, so it's a little bit to hold on to, but go ahead and put pressure on all those rings. And right here, get your fingers as close as possible and give a nice tight 1 twist, 2 twists, and 3 twists. If you can keep these wires angled at 90 degrees or approximately at 90 degrees, these twists will come out really nice. And this is the result. And we'll make small adjustments, so don't worry, we'll make small adjustments with our nylon jaw. Put that one down and we'll do the opposite one. We're just going to hold everything very steady. Give a slight slant upward. You might not need to slant both of them. Right here at the center line of the loops. I'll hold everything nice and steady. These are automatically crisscrossing in the opposite direction of this one because of the way we started our wrap around the mandrel. And I'll get my fingers super close and I'll give one nice tight twist without letting any of my rings shift. I'll give 2 twists and 3, keeping these 2 wires at a slight 90 degree. And that looks pretty good. I can tell that I have mirrored opposites because this curve comes to the right and this curve comes to the left. And now with our nylon jaw, we'll just make a little bit of adjustments here and there. If you need to make your twists a little bit tighter, hold all your rings so that they don't shift and just give nice little love taps all the way around those twists. If you need to, if it's bulky right here, don't just smash down on it. Do a real controlled twist until you feel like, or squeeze until you feel like, these rings have kind of settled and nested. So you can see the profile is nice and flat. And it doesn't have to be totally flat, but just, as consistent as you can get it. I'm keeping the short side to the left. And this way I know I'm working with the same sides of the earring. My short side is to the right. And same thing here, my rings are nested nicely. I'll hold everything and I'll just use my nylon jaw and make squeezes and little nudges to make those twists a little bit tighter. I'll look down the profile and if I need to squeeze them up slightly, I can do that here at the neck. It's okay if the rings, the back ring comes above a little bit as you squeeze it. Both earrings look really lovely. And remember that these are handmade, so they don't have to be, factory perfect, right? So that is beautiful. And now I'll go to hammering them. So now I'll bring my clean bench block out on top of a little towel for just to mute the noise a little bit from hammering. I'm going to hold everything steady. I'm going to hammer this side of the earring because I want actually this side to be the front of the earring. So whichever side you decide you want to be the front, hammer the opposite side. Okay, so I know that this is the back because I'm going to designate it by this little curve that goes up, and on the opposite side, whoop, it just looks like 3 flat rings. So that'll be my front. So I'm going to hammer on the back. You can choose whichever side you'd like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer all 3 of these rings together, and I'm going to hammer just here in the same spot more. Then I'm going to taper up along the sides and with light taps to taper the wire. So excuse the noise. Plug your ears for hammering. As I hammer, I'm pulling back slightly so that I tell the wire where to go as it's flattening. So I want all of my flares to pull out to the bottom. You can see I'm hammering all 3 rings at the same time. And so I've got this little 3D effect. Try not to hit any of that if you can avoid it. So now that I've got this flared to my liking, I'm just going to go and tap the sides to taper the wire. Up here I'm only hitting the outer ring, and we'll adjust the rings again after hammering. They shift a little bit. This is 16 gauge, so I can actually flare it a little more. So I think I'm going to actually hit the center and bring those flares out a little bit more. And that's pretty good there. I like that. So now to hammer this is also optional hammering, but if you're going to hammer it, make sure that everything is nice and flat. Hammer from here towards the rings and just use light tapping. Try not to strike this area above all 3 of the rings. Try to stay just on your twists. And you don't need to smash it down too much. That's pretty good right there. You can see that we've given it some hardness as well as some texture just by flattening the wire there. You can feel that the hammering caused substantial hardening on this wire. So it's very sturdy at 16 gauge. Even if you're using 18 gauge, it should be pretty sturdy feeling after hammer. So now I'll do my opposite one. I'll make sure that everything is laying flat on my bench block. And I'll hammer in the exact same way. Now that that's flared out here in the center, I'll just lightly tap the outside wires and transition the hammering. I'll compare to these rings over here to see if that's pretty good. Yep, I like the way that's looking. I might flare these a little bit more, the outer ring. That's pretty good there. And now I'll hammer the twists up here. Just holding everything to make sure my frame lays flat. And I've lightly hammered all 3 of those twists. So now from here you can see that the hammering sometimes will shift your wire a little bit. Not too much, but you can make slight adjustments with your hands and or your nylon jaws if you feel like it. So I always like to take my nylon jaw after hammering and just give love taps all around the piece. So I've gotten my nylon jaws. I'll hold all of my rings here, and I'm just going to squeeze on these both this way and on top and bottom. I'll make sure that the neck here is laying nice and flat, and I'll just make sure that all rings are settled so that they're nice and flat. And that's a beautiful, beautiful earring. So now I'll do the opposite one. Actually, I like to start up here and just give these a nice little tap. You're not killing it, you're just love tapping everything so that the earring shape comes back after hammering if you need to make small adjustments. And now I'm going to turn these over because this side is my actual front side. So you can see that they're going in opposite directions because my exiting spiral arm goes to the left here and goes to the right over here. Those are beautiful. Both sides of this earring are gorgeous, and you can do a lot of things with them. So here I think I'm going to shift these rings a little bit. They're a little off center, which doesn't look bad, but I just will nudge it so that I can make an example for you. All I'm doing is getting my fingernail in there. You saw that move to this side a little bit and recenter a little bit. I just usually stick my fingernail in there. Make sure you don't take your rings out of shape, but just give little love nudges if you need to. Beautiful. Okay. And now we'll address the top here. So decide which side of your earring is the front, because that will matter to how we end this next wire. So since this is my front, I'm taking my flat nose plier and I'm going to hold this intersection right here very steady, but I'm not going to put my plier all the way because I'm going to make a hairpin bend in this one to the back. Okay, so hold real tight right there and just bend this wire back on itself so that you get just a little bit of a curve over this wire here. I'll take my cutter and I'm going to cut it pretty close. I'm going to leave just a couple of millimeter, maybe a little bit less there. Just enough so that I can hook this over the wire and close it. Just like that. You'll look to the front and make sure that that last knot or that last twist is ending nicely. I like to kind of, after I bend it back, I tap it. Did you see it kind of just come back into line with the rest of them? So it just looks like a nice clean finish. You want to make sure that this back here isn't poking. If it is, get your plier on it and try to tuck that end in a little bit more, and you may or may not have to sandpaper that a little bit. Just take a small file or a little bit of rough 1000 grit sandpaper if you feel any discomfort in that back cut end. And now I'll do the opposite one. Same thing, I'll make sure I'm looking at the front of my earring. I'll take a nice sturdy plier like my flat nose. Your chain nose would work also, but it comes to a point, so it'd be a little harder. If you have a nice flat nose, it'd be good. And just make a nice close bend right over that wire and down the back, kind of diagonal style. Take a cutter and cut it with just a couple of millimeter, enough to get you over that wire. And then you can either take your chain nose or your flat nose, get on the back of it and on the front of it and close that end up nice and sturdy. Look to the front, put your plier right here and do a little squeeze just to straighten that last curve up along with the rest of it, and that looks really nice. Make sure you don't feel anything back here, and sand if you do, and make sure that I like to give it just a little extra tap, make sure that it's that cut is laying as far down as I can get it to lay. And that's beautiful. So now we'll finish the last bit. We're almost done, you guys. One more little cut. I'm going to measure from this edge a 1/2 inch. So I'll put that edge right here where all 4 corners meet. Come to a 1/2 inch. I don't need to mark it. I'm just going to take my my cutter, straddle it right there, control my shard and take the snip. And I'll do the same, making sure I'm looking at the front of my earring. I'll just put the end here where 4 corners meet. I'll measure 1/2 inch, and then I'll take the cut. Ooh, I'm a little bit odd in the camera here, so I'm just going to pick it up. And I'm just going to cut right there at a 1/2 inch. I'll get my round nose pliers from here. We're going to make the last loop, and then we'll put some ear wires on here, and we'll be done, you guys. So with that cut to a 1/2 inch, I'll take my round nose plier. I'll get about 4 millimeter into the plier. This is 16 gauge, so it might be a little bit tough to make this loop. I'm just going to curve it around. I want a nice kind of elongated loop, just like that. Bring it right back down on that little stub right there. I usually move to my flats after this, and I give a slight little squeeze right there until it just pops in there, and then squeeze it on its side to make sure that it's flat. And that's a nice, beautiful, cute closure, and your earring hook will go above that. So now we'll do the opposite earring. Looking at the front side of our earring, we'll get our round nose plier. Going to go about 4 millimeter into my plier, hold real steady at the end, start to turn that curve. Trying to stay in the camera for you. Just turn it until it makes a nice loop back to meet itself. You can get your flats or your chain nose. Give a very controlled little squeeze until it closes. If you need to squeeze it here to make sure it's up and center, you can do that, and that's a beautiful little closure. Squeeze it here and make sure it's flat with the rest of the frame. Okay, very nice. I gave myself a little bit to sand, but no big deal. So sanding is optional. You know, the earrings are very sturdy, they're beautiful, and if you don't feel like you need any sanding, then you're good to go. Otherwise, the areas you'll check are like right here. You might need to file that and sand that slightly. I like to use 1000 grit sandpaper. These are soft touch sanding pads, and you can just go over that little edge to make sure that it's nice and smooth and comfortable. Take a look in the front, see if you have any tool marks to take off, and if so, go ahead and sand all the front. I'm not going to sand just for the sake of time, but down here you could also sand off any hammering strikes very easily. With these sanding pads, they kind of give way a little bit so they get into that inner edge, which is nice. Just balance it on my finger. And sand until your marks are gone or until you're happy with it. Sand the edge of the earring as well. If you have any little spots that need softening. And then when you're all done sanding, we'll add our earring hooks and we'll enjoy our beautiful earrings. You can see that they're perfectly mirrored opposites. And now to finish our earrings, all we have to do is grab our favorite earring hooks, open them up from the side, make sure you're looking at the front of your earring, and put the hook on it. These are really great because you can enjoy them just plain. You can add beads, obviously, you can weave, you can tie on all kinds of fun embellishments. You can add, beads to the outside. You can dangle something. I love them just the way they are, and you can also make them without so many twists. You can do one, you can do two, and they just make for really fun earrings. Paddles, metal paddles would be great on these as well, with the bead in the center. So I hope you're enjoying this. If you don't know how to, if you don't have pre-made earring hooks, stick around for an extra few seconds. At the end of this video, I show us how to make our own earring hooks. Very simple and easy with just 2 inches of wire per hook. All right, you guys, and that's it. I hope you love Spiral Prime, and I hope you make a lot of them in all different kinds of sizes, because we don't necessarily have to use the numbers I gave you on your mandrel. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller. And they're just delightful and fun. You can also patina these up and polish them out for a nice antique look. Thanks, you guys. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Please remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and enjoy making more beautiful, wonderful spiral simple earrings. Thanks. Much love. Bye. To make earring hooks, I have 2 pieces of 20 gauge round soft wire. They're both cut to 2 inches long, and I'm just going to take the very ends off of both wires so that I have nice flush cuts. I'll get my round nose plier, either one at a time. You can do them both at the same time, but I'll just show us one at a time. I'm going to get about 3 millimeter or so into my plier, hold on to the end of my wire, and I'm just going to make a turn and go all the way around the wire until the cut end meets itself again, just like that. I'll do the same with the opposite wire. Just hold on to the end and turn the wire all the way around the plier until the loop meets itself. You can reinsert and just bring it a little bit closer. Same thing with this one. After you've got nice even loops, you can just get it a little closer if you need to. Make sure that those loops are big enough to be able to receive the earring wire as well. That's why I like to go about 3 millimeter into the round nose plier. To make my hooks that go into the ear, I just put both little loops together. I get the wires evenly lined up. I go to my step pliers. If you don't have these, a nice chopstick works. Any kind of round pen, like a big pen. I'm going to use I think this is 7 millimeter barrel here, and I'm just going to insert my wires so that there's a couple of millimeter there. I like a little bit of a stem on my earring. I don't like them too small, so I'll hold them just so I can see about 3 millimeter or 2 millimeter out. I'll bring this wire all the way around until it meets those loops, and then I'll just give a slight back bend to both those wires, and I have a nice beautiful pair of earring hooks. They need to be hammered slightly so that they hold their shape and their strength, since they'll be, this is the piece you pull in and out of the ear, so if you're making your own, you want to make sure to give them a hammer. Make sure to flatten it all. Take your hammer and strike this curve a few times, just gently, until it flattens and hardens. I also like to tap the loop. And now you have a beautiful pair of hooks. Certainly we have to trim and sand the back side of the earring down. So after I hammer them, I hold them together, and I'm just going to make these a little bit shorter. So you've got just a couple of millimeter of a slight bend on the back. We'll take our sandpaper and we'll sand those smooth to make sure that they go through the ear comfortably, taking all the edges off. Do both pair. Until they feel good. Then we'll open them up and insert our beautiful earrings. I already did the other pair on a pair of pre-made hooks, so I'll get my pair that I made off screen. And then close the hook up. For a lovely pair of earrings. Open your loops sideways, wide enough that they can receive your earring. And enjoy. Now you can embellish or enjoy them as they are. What a fun pair of earrings. You'll just love making these. I get mesmerized by them. I love the spiral loops. And you can also, like I said, instead of making 3 twists here, you can make 1 or 2. Or you can just wrap around the stem in a traditional way. And by that I mean, here's an example. I went through the same process. I brought the back wire, or in this case the front wire, around and just did a full 360 around the top stem and made a loop instead of twisting them. So you can have them both ways, short or long, hammered or unhammered. All right, you guys. Thanks again. Have a good day. Thanks for joining me. Much love. We'll see you next time. Bye.